before COVID-19 and then after COVID-19. In these past 12 months, there are things that we've seen that we cannot unsee. There are things that we've learned that we cannot unlearn. And it's not what you saw in your classes. It's things that happen in the world, in society, to your friends, to your family, to multiple people. And the question is, what are we going to do about it? Let's move to the next slide. At the time, we were a little bit naive. I mean, but the principles that held there at that time are probably the same ones that are at the core of the challenge today. We want to be able to care for our students, for our peers, for our faculty, for our staff, and to make sure that the mission, our mission as a university, our mission as a college, our mission as a department, it is not compromised. You know, we exist for a reason, and that is actually to give you the tools to be successful in the future. The moment that mission is compromised, then we should not exist. You know, the moment we feel that our mission cannot be accomplished or we cannot accomplish our mission, then at that point, then we will ask the question, why are we still here? So we want to make sure that we work with you, and I'm going to just walk you again down memory lane to some of the things that we talked at the time that are still valid today. So next slide. Do you remember things like this? When actually there were 14 positive cases in Iowa, and actually at that time, probably I saw many of you in your design studios. I was making the rounds and telling you this statistic, and there were no cases in Ames. In fact, I thought, I was telling you, I mean, if you just this is going to be a geometric growth. I was saying maybe in 2 or 3 weeks we'll have 200. Boy, first of all, I'll tell you a couple of things. It took a little bit longer to get to 200. The following 1,000 came faster than what I expected. Our objective at the time was to flatten the curve. So let's go to the next slide. You probably saw this a great deal at the very beginning, and that is how to find the balance between, you know, our infrastructure and achieving our goals. Whatever is just like a flu, well, it's not like a flu, and we are painfully aware of all of that. Let's move to the next one. So at that time, and we continue to talk about social distancing, but I hope you actually catch that in the College of Design in Iowa State, instead of speaking about social distancing, let's go to the next slide. We want to talk about being social at a distance. And that requires, and at the time we talked about this, developing new rituals. And in fact, based on the presentation that we saw and on the brief of the exercise we're going to commit to over the next few days, is developing new ways of interacting with each other. So let's go to the next slide. And then when we talk about accomplishing our mission, I'm going to just refer you to a couple of the sentences of that speech from Lincoln, and that is, we should not be afraid of the complexity of the problem. You know, we should, in fact, you know, relish that complexity. Really, that's something that needs to inspire you and motivate us. You know, you're going to find, I'm not naive, you're not naive. I'm actually not sure we're going to come with every single detail of how these problems are going to be solved in the next 48 hours or the next 7 days, you know, but there's going to be the kernel of an idea. Then again, you, like Anna, and like many other people, if you want, you can actually pursue, and eventually, maybe that will change the world. One thing that is going to be critical as you do that is use this beautiful word in English. I really love it being a non-native speaker, disenthrall. You know, the idea of, you know, trying to freeing yourself from the weight of history, of traditions, of protocols, and all those different things, to think anew and act anew. So that is the idea. Free yourself over the next few hours, few days, you know, and try everything. There's going to be a lot of paths that will go in the wrong direction, but eventually you'll find one that you like. Maybe other people don't like it, who cares? You know, just follow that path and let's see where it leads. Go to the next slide. At the time, and this is going to become a little bit more down to the core of what we're trying to do, we did a very quick 3x3 matrix. You know, I still remember I had a lot of my professors that told me, you know, anything that is worth thinking about probably can be summarized in a 2x2 or 3x3 matrix. Well, In this case, we're about to move everything to virtual world. And on one axis, we're talking about the technologies that we could actually use. Low bandwidth text-based, for example, things that will not consume a lot of bandwidth, so we could actually maximize access to everybody. And by the way, I'm going to confess, I was really afraid we were going to break the internet at a time. And actually, it was something that was in the minds of everybody. And it turns out that we didn't. Actually, the infrastructure is robust enough that we actually didn't. Then there is a level up that is multimedia and personal computing. So I mean, from text-based to image and video-based. And then there is something that is extremely experiential. I'm actually not sure if that is something we can actually put in a virtual world, but it was all these experiential technology. How do you interact with equipment? How do you interact with others? Yes, you can do part of that virtual, but there are some parts of that experiential, what you experience as a designer, as a student, that probably cannot be put in those terms. On the other axis, we have just a very simple, very classic numbers of the people that are interacting and how many people we're interacting with. Can be one-to-one, like a phone call, for example, one to many when you're broadcasting, like me to many of you, and then many to many when you have actually a group of people, all of them exchanging ideas at the same time. And then we put in the middle many of the things that we do, and it's not an exhaustive list, it's just examples. So for example, we could think that office hours, I could do them, relatively low tech. I mean, I could chat with people, for example. A desk script probably will require some more images and more multimedia activities. A class conversation could be a threaded text base, or could be, as we're doing right now with Zoom, something that we can actually do. There's some things that are really hard, and one of the ones that I have there actually turns out that it was not true. Equipment coaching, for example, what we meant, imagine doing ceramics. Well, it's really hard to do virtually, to throw a pot, if you're in a virtual environment. I thought that actually software coaching, because some of the software that we use in labs is extremely powerful. It's going to be hard to move to virtual, but it turns out that we could use these virtual servers, and you've experienced all of that over the past few months, and we can actually do it. So that was actually not accurate. But the reality is that we were talking about this, and we can move to the next slide, because as I said, I was, and we were, faculty were really concerned, first of all, about infrastructure. Are we going to have enough bandwidth to do all the amazing things that we can do on exceptional basis, like video broadcasting, all that kind of stuff? But for me, the most serious challenge was, can we make sure that anybody, regardless of their background, their socioeconomic conditions, any kind of issues, access to technology, could we make sure that everybody in the College of Design could actually continue to participate in our mission? Could we then work with them to deliver on our mission? Yes, I mean, for some of us, we take for granted that internet exists in our home. May have a little bit more speed or a little bit less speed, but we can actually see movies. We can actually see each other in some of these things. Well, that may not be true depending on where you live. I mean, there's still a digital divide, particularly in rural America. I mean, not everybody will have access to all these different tools. There's actually, we cannot assume that everybody can actually have access to the same kind of equipment that we have. Not all these different things were extremely important for us. So this idea, and it's not about moving your classroom to a smartphone, but it was, can you actually think about experiences that can be accessible to everybody? That if you have a phone, maybe we can actually make it easier for people to go through. And that is in essence what we're trying to do with the Charette today. We're going to go to the next slide. And these are the two questions that I think you've heard over and over again. They went in the promotion of this event. Anna talked about them, and I'm going to rehearse them. That is how we might reframe learning spaces, places, and practices in all our college communities in the post-pandemic area. That is the big question. And how might we investigate, co-create, and locate places that can reconnect people and enhance collective well-being, teaching, and learning. Let me pose this in a different way. Let me just do this. For me, think about how you're interacting right now with this particular screen. If we go to the next slide, and maybe, okay, I lost you, but I'm going to find you right now again. We go to the next slide. We're going to define what is the new, no, the previous slide. We're going to define what is, I don't want to call it the new normal. People call it the new normal. Well, I don't like it. I think what I would like to ask you to do is to think about what we've learned over the past 12 months, and let's commit ourselves to go what I will call a normal plus. A normal that has been enriched by all those experiences over the past 12 months. And I'm going to say it again, not only in the classroom, okay? We want to map out the complexity of our places for learning. Don't shy away of thinking about complex issues, reflecting on the lessons of the past 12 months and reminding enhanced context for future pedagogies, for many tomorrows, and for everybody. And that for me is the most important component. So think about yourself. The potential outcomes of the charrette could be on the physical space, on your side of the screen, are really the spaces where we learn the more appropriate ones. In fact, and I'm going to be really serious about being on this side of the screen, we've freed ourselves, a very particular, precise place to be. Can we think about new spaces, and what are those spaces where we can actually learn? How many of you took a class, for example, out there under a tent? I'm hoping that a few of you liked it. Maybe you didn't. But can we rethink the places where we're learning? Remember that many of us, you are learning right now in spaces in your home. Do we need to think about something like that? In fact, see it the other way. I mean, the faculty that are in the call right now, they are teaching, from their homes. It's been a huge process of adaptation. Is there anything that we can do on that side of the screen to talk about it? Can you think about that really thin virtual, really thin line between the physical and the virtual space? What are the interactions that could happen? How can we facilitate that connection between one side and the other? And I'm going to try to do this, but have you seen those movies, where people is trying to reach to the other side? There's this, proverbial finger that touches a membrane and then appears on the other side, looks like water and all that kind of stuff. Well, that is the other potential outcome of this. What does that mean, to touch that membrane that divides these different dimensions, and make it in a way that is easy, that is natural to move from one to the other? So what are the kinds of interactions that you've experienced work or not work? And is there another way of thinking about it on the other side? And then on the other side of the screen, again, can you make suggestions? You're going to have faculty that is going to be working with you, but you're the learners. Are there new experiences that you feel we could be doing with you, to enhance this learning space? Are there new ways of delivering content for you, delivering experiences for you that you want to actually embark in? And by the way, you don't have to do everything in one. In fact, I will recommend that you begin very wide at the beginning. Then, as I said, choose a path. Doesn't matter if other people like it or not. You just need to find, as Anna said, a couple of people who want to be in that journey with you. And then actually just explore it. And at the end, we're going to have a ceremony on Thursday where, unfortunately, we'll go through a period of review, and we'll create some awards. In my mind, all of you are going to be winners because of the experience, but one will be, some will be selected and some will not. But as Anna said, there's probably equal value for the people that wins and the people that will not, because you will end up with much more knowledge to then try again. And there's going to be multiple opportunities. That's why, we're starting this series and these activities, multiple opportunities still this year and next year in the university, if you're still here and out there in life, to actually go through the same process. Okay, so this is how I'm thinking about what is going to happen in the next few hours. Anna, I want to just put the final slide. And I'm not inspirational as Anna, but I'm going to just leave you with a couple of things. There are many definitions of design. They're very technical definitions of design. This idea of taking a present state and moving it to a desired one. But for me, one important characteristic of design is that it has disproportionate impact. This butterfly effect that designers have of coming with an idea, kind of just like give it a little bit of a push, and then it can actually fly and change the world, is something that is really important. Don't be scared that it's a small move, because that small move will become waves, or as they said, a hurricane on the other side of the world or in the other side of history. So that for me is important for design. And then the other one is the inspiration that I get from, Don Quixote, the idea that designers fight windmills, the battles that nobody else thinks that are even reasonable, and actually we succeed. So thank you for spending time with us, and I'm really looking forward to keep working with you over the next hours and days. Anna, what do we do now?
Video, let me start this. Thank you.